Hey, closet busters and bold move makers. It is time once again for Life Uncloseted. So I want you to gather around because it is time once again to kick down those closet doors of your life. We're here to escape our BS, explore our fears, and elevate our self-expression. I'm your host, Rick Clemens. I'm the bold move expert and that coming out guy who's going to take you to the party, the pulpit, the wake, and back to the party of living your life uncloseted. So come on along with me and grab hold of yourself and get ready to step out, step up, and step into facing your fears, making your bold moves, and living life without apologies. Now let's get to the show. Hey, closet dwellers and bold move makers. It's time once again for Life Uncloseted. I'm your host, Rick Clemens, and today we're going to go a little bit deeper. We're going to go deeper into a lot of things, but mostly we're going to go put on our dancing shoes and go a little bit deeper in love and start looking at things through a slightly different perspective. And I've got the pleasure of speaking with an amazing artist that's really doing some cool stuff. Her name is Kendra Erika. She just released a new song called A Deeper Love. And here's the thing. She's sending a little bit of a message to her own millennials and a few of us about spreading ourselves too thin, searching for approval, all this sort of stuff that we get on validation from social media. And she really wants us to start looking at things deeper so that we can all be a little bit better humans, no matter what that looks like. So I can't wait to have this conversation. This is the first time this young lady and I have met and talked, but I have listened to her music, and I can tell you I'm loving it. And I'm really excited to have you here on the show, Kendra. So thanks for joining me.
Of course. I can't wait to, dive into this subject.
Right. That's so cool. That's so cool. So let's really talk about this subject because, when your publicist sent me this stuff, I was like, yes, this is pretty right up my alley of like, let's really go unravel some stuff. Let's unwrap this thing. And, I'm so glad to hear somebody of your own generation saying, I think we're kind of like wrapping ourselves up in this too much approval stuff, folks, and waiting for the next big social media thing to happen. So what got you thinking in that direction? I mean, I know you're a performer and everything, but what have you seen through your own lens of life that got you thinking, something's got to change?
Well, I've always had an intuitive, grasp on things, and I just see things, like you said, through a different lens, and I see things for what they are, even if I might not like what I'm seeing. It's the truth, and I don't like dwell on it. I just try to find solutions, and my solution was to, really enlighten people on the fact that we are spreading ourselves too thin, and even when we're together with people that truly matter and that have like valued our growth and everything like that, we tend to, sort of put that off to the side, and then we put our focus on, matters not of the heart anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's matter of the approval and the external validation. But that all comes with the influences that we surround ourselves with. I mean, our influencers now are doing just that. And so it just becomes this wheel, and, without sounding too much like Daenerys, I mean, it's like, I wanted to break the wheel.
Right. And that makes sense. I think a lot of us, myself included, I'm going to be 56 this year. And because of what I do in my business, there's a lot of social media interaction that I get involved in. And then there are times, and actually I'm going to really roll back. I was actually certified as a social media expert clear back in 2005, 2006, when all this stuff was just really beginning to like, what is this? And why are we doing this? And all that sort of stuff. And even with that insight, I saw myself going, oh, well, I got to be on here. I got to be doing this. And even, each day that I'm, in my current life, I have to give myself permission to go, you're not going to look at this. You're going to set this aside. You're going to do what matters most, and you're not going to get caught up. Now, of course, I'm human, so I'm going to fuck it up every once in a while and get caught up in it. But I think this is a beautiful realization that you are bringing into the world with your talent, your art, your way of expressing yourself to help people see this. And I hope people can really hear the words and really understand what you're trying to get at. And I know a lot of this was driven by, here comes this Me Too movement thing. And then suddenly, as many of us do, we suddenly see nobody's respecting anybody anymore. Everybody's kind of like, you're wrong, I'm right, and kind of go fuck you. So as you were writing this music, what was the driver for you? What is it, that thing you want people to walk away from this song and really take home with them or take into their own hearts?
I think, and it's clear as day in the lyrics. I mean, I say, restore the balance of your ways. I mean, because right now, like you said, no one's really, nice anymore. Everyone's being like really mean to each other. I think although a lot of the public figures out there are putting this whole like one love and let's love each other. It's very passe, and it's not as, driven into people, and not that it needs any like driving sort of like force or anything like that. It just needs to be felt more and needs to,
needs to be genuine, I think, is what you're getting at. It's got to be, we can't just say this words, I know for me, every time I hear thoughts and prayers, I just want to like puke. It's like, okay, do you really mean that? Or has this just become the latest thing that we just say because this is what we think we're supposed to say? And I feel like we are losing that ability to be truly genuine and sincere in the things that we say and our actions that we do.
Exactly. And even, steering this more towards the Me Too movement. I mean, there are people that really and truly do qualify for this. And, funny enough, like I genuinely send, good energy and vibes to them to become more of a survivor and get stronger from this, because they really truly deserve it. I mean, it's all a matter of it's their karma to rise out of this. But when it comes to people getting too wrapped up in the emotional side of it and not thinking logically. I mean, we have women that, get cat calls on the streets, and then all of a sudden they're like taking those construction workers to court. Right. Like it just becomes more of it's a vicious combination between ego and emotion.
Yeah. It's interesting that you're bringing this up because I speak on college and university campuses, and last year I was working with a college in Washington, and we were talking about having me come and do my men and masculinity in a Me Too world talk with them. And so as we're working through the talk, and it's a pretty standard talk, but one of the leaders who was bringing me in, these are all students. They're not like the faculty. One of the student leaders that had called me, and her and I had created the relationship, she said, but here's the thing, Rick. I just want to make sure that when you do your talk and you do some of the training stuff and you give us the tools, that you make it really clear that we're on the guy's side too, because this isn't all guys. This isn't every man's a piece of shit. It's let's be realistic how we approach this, and let's not take every little thing that somebody's doing. And ironically, my husband and I were just having this conversation a couple of days ago, because I feel like at this stage, I'm even cautious to give a woman a hug these days. And sometimes those are women that I really know really well. And then there's other times they're kind of acquaintances, and they're like, yeah, we have fun, we chat and everything, but I'm almost afraid to like do certain things because I don't know if that's going to come back. And I'm not sure this is the most healthy environment for any of us to be living in.
Yeah, it creates an eggshell floor. And being that women are the masters of letting our emotions run wild, and we create so many different scenarios in our head, and we fantasize a lot, but there comes a time, and it's like when push comes to shove, that certain inconsistencies are starting to really affect human beings. And when I mean human beings, I mean like all parties involved. it just becomes a sticky and messy situation. I mean, we have men like losing their families, their jobs, like everything that they've built for themselves. And this is me not taking that side at all. Like I'm very Switzerland when it comes to certain, political movements, and where there's, two sides, which I think is like the biggest mistake our country could do right now is marginalize everything to where everything has to be so divided.
Yep.
But there just needs to be a mutual understanding when it comes to everything.
I feel like we're losing sight of, and I'm glad we're having this conversation, because this is one of the tough spaces I get into a lot on this show. Is there's room for everybody to have their perspective and to live life their way, and this is where I always get in trouble. Mm-hmm. Provided they're not hurting someone. And I've had hate mail come to me because I said, well, define hurting. I'm like, okay, do I really have to spell this out? Do I really have to spell this out? Like, as long as you're not murdering someone or like, mentally torturing someone. But we have to be very careful that even in those spaces, it's like, I know as a gay man, there are times that I can feel that torture, even though I know kind of that's not what they're doing. It's just they're in their own space and their own belief. And I'm all for people having their own beliefs, but you have to look at it from, are you actually being a good human when you hold to that belief so strongly that it hurts somebody else? And I want people to have room to be who they are, but I'm not here with a gay agenda. And I hate that terminology when it comes up. I'm here to live my life, and I happen to be gay. That's it. It's that simple. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at is, yes, have your own space and have your own belief system, but also give that room for other people to have the same rights and the same experience.
Yes, because everyone comes from all different walks of life. Everyone has not gone down the same path. Mm-hmm. Everyone has, like, there are so many different roads out there that people have gone down to achieve what they've achieved and come to certain conclusions and everything like that. But like you said, it's a matter of respecting, and it's also a matter of listening too. Because when you think about it, there's a reason why the saying we've been given 2 ears and 1 mouth. I think there's a reason why that saying has stood the test of time. Mm-hmm. Because when it stands the test of time, that means that time and time again, like, time has not affected its truth and its credence.
So I'm curious for you as an artist, and I've interviewed a lot of different singer-songwriters on this podcast, each of them coming from their own beautiful perspective of what it means to live their life on their terms, or, taking the crazy risks that they do to make a really bold move and do the thing they most want to do. Do you ever get anybody saying, okay, nice messages, but do you really think anybody's going to get the message when they're out there and it's a dance beat and they're dancing on the dance floor? Have you ever had anybody say something like that to you?
Yes, I have. Like, being in dance music and pop music and in like mainstream. I don't know if my music is like considered like mainstream, but it's close to it. But anything within that pool, of course, you're gonna get people that are just all about just like that surface thing. Yep. But at the same time, like, I see people diving in more to read the lyrics and to understand them and to capture them and share it. So I see that there's a sort of like shift happening. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to make sure that I, saw 10 steps down the line and be a part of that.
Right. Well, what I see you doing, and I know you've done some some remakes and stuff with some other people's, like Laura Branigan's classic song, the Self-Control and stuff, But what I love with this stuff that you're doing that's your own is you're building the foundation. You're setting the precedence for where you're going to go and let your message carry on ahead of you. And I know a lot of artists do that, but I almost feel like after listening to your song, listening to Deeper Love, and really like stepping down into that with you, I could feel like, okay, she's paving the way so that she can continue to almost become this evangelist through her music about things that really matter. That was my personal take, and maybe that's not what is happening, but it felt that way for me. And I think if people can do that, and I know music affects all of us in different ways, but if people can just take that in and really do what you said, start looking at the lyrics. Yes, I love, not as much as I used to, but yeah, I love dancing out on the dance floor and just being in the music. But I still remember the day that I was on an all-gay cruise, and it was a dance. We were all dancing, having a good time. And then suddenly I heard the dance version of Heather Small's Proud. And I'm like, that's actually the song from, now I can't remember. Well, it's been a song on many, many shows. It's been on several different gay shows. And I'm like, those words are the ones that spoke to me. Those words are the ones that always give me that moving forward. And it's interesting because that song is now a song that I use anytime I go speak on stage. It's either my intro music or my outro music. And in the midst of being on that dance floor, on that cruise ship, I heard every word of that song because it was deep in me at that point. Prior to that, I just loved the song. I loved the beat. And then suddenly it was so weird. I was surrounded by a couple of thousand gay men dancing on the top deck of a ship. I actually heard the words, and it was just really interesting.
Level.
Yeah. So where do you go from here? I know so just so you all know, we had a little conversation about this before we got on the podcast and we're airing it. And I'm like, so, where are we going? Because we're pre-recording this and, this is going to come out for a couple of months. But when I'm asking where you go from here, I know your life's kind of crazy and you're just like, okay, I'm just doing day to day right now to figure it out. But if you could really say, here's where I want to see myself go from here, what would be that little magic wand you would wave and what would it look like?
Well, I've always enjoyed traveling and doing what I love while traveling because I feel like I said, I feel more that there's momentum being generated. Mm-hmm. And so I can't stand being stagnant because that's when like my mind like attacks itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm like, no, get out.
Right.
But I'm constantly writing. I'm constantly, letting things inspire me and allowing for the world just to open up to me, and vice versa. Because it takes two to tango in this certain situation. So I just constantly writing, constantly, traveling.
So let me ask you this. What's a message right now? I know I'm putting you on the spot with this question, but what's a message right now that you feel like the world needs to hear that they're not hearing?
To just listen. Just start listening to everything that you hear. And listen very intently and listen very carefully to everything that you're being presented. And when I say listen, I mean like actually listen. Like don't just listen, from the first tier, but listen to the second tier, the third tier, like all the way down to the core of the message and where that message is really headed to. Is it headed to a good place, or is it just headed to a place of agenda and self-gain and all around selfishness? Does it have a social redeeming factor to it?
This is really interesting because I'm currently working on a speech that will have happened by the time this show airs. But I was working with my speech coach last weekend on this, and she said almost verbatim what you just said.